Chapter 6. The Weaver's Cradle. Consciousness returned to Liam like drowning in reverse, awareness seeping back through layers of silk-wrapped darkness until he broke the surface of wakefulness with a gasp that barely stirred the air around his mouth. He couldn't move. His body lay perfectly still on his bed, every muscle locked in place by invisible bonds that felt more absolute than chains. He could feel the sheets beneath him, could sense the familiar weight of his mattress, but when he tried to lift his head or turn to the side, nothing responded. Not paralysis. This was something far more sophisticated. His body had simply forgotten how to obey him. The dark cords beneath his skin pulsed with lazy satisfaction, their network now complete. They stretched across every inch of his flesh in intricate patterns that matched the webbing around him, connecting him to something vast and patient that hummed with alien contentment. Perfect, whispered the voice, no longer confined to his mind but speaking from everywhere at once. Absolutely perfect. Do you feel it, Liam? The peace, the belonging. Above him, the face in the web had fully materialized, suspended mere inches from his own. In the dim light filtering through his silt-shrouded window, he could see it clearly now, beautiful and terrible, human and utterly other. The pale skin seemed to glow with its own inner light, and those midnight black eyes held depths that spoke of centuries, maybe millennia, of patient hunting. My name is older than your language, the face said, lips barely moving as the words formed directly in the air between them. But you may call me what others have called me. The weaver, the one who creates homes for the lost and lonely. Behind the face, Liam caught glimpses of the true form, shadows that shifted and writhed, segments that were neither fully human nor entirely insect. Arms that branched and multiplied, creating the dozens of hands he'd seen emerging from his floor. A torso that seemed to stretch impossibly long, disappearing into the web darkness of his ceiling. I know you're frightened, the weaver continued with infinite gentleness. It's natural. Change is always frightening, even when it's exactly what we need. Elam tried to scream, to move, to do anything that might break the spell holding him captive. But his voice was as paralyzed as his body, and only a soft whimper escaped his lips. Shh, the weaver soothed, and one pale hand materialized from the web to stroke his cheek with surprising tenderness. The touch was cool as marble, but somehow comforting, like a fever breaking after days of suffering. You don't need to fight anymore. You've been fighting for so long, fighting the guilt, fighting the loneliness, fighting the truth that you were never meant to carry such burdens alone. The hand traced the raised cords along his neck, following their patterns with obvious adoration. Where the fingers touched, the numbness deepened, spreading through his system like warm honey. 3 years, the weaver murmured. 3 years I've been preparing this space for you, watching you suffer, waiting for the perfect moment when your pain would make you ready to accept my gift. Do you know how rare you are, Liam? How exquisite your particular variety of despair tastes to me. More hands emerged from the shadows, dozens of them, all reaching for him with that same desperate affection he'd felt when they tried to pull him through the floor. They touched him everywhere, stroking his hair, caressing his arms, tracing the web-like patterns that now covered his skin. Survivor's guilt, the weaver continued, black eyes never leaving his face. The most delicious flavor of suffering, so pure, so self-consuming. You've been marinating in it for years, letting it permeate every part of your being until you became exactly what I needed. The hands were moving with purpose now, and Liam felt something thin and strong wrapping around his wrists, his ankles, his torso. Not rope or chain, but silk, living silk that pulsed with the same rhythm as the cords beneath his skin. The others who came before you, the weaver explained as the silk bonds tightened, they were practice. Preparation. Each one taught me something new about what humans need to feel truly at peace. The business net taught me about professional disappointment. The old woman showed me the weight of social isolation. The teenager revealed the particular agony of feeling unloved. Liam's bed began to move, or rather, the web around it began to contract, lifting him slowly toward the ceiling, where his designated space waited among the dozens of other silk-wrapped forms. But you, the weaver's voice filled with something that might have been love in a creature capable of such emotion, you showed me the deepest suffering of all. The guilt of the survivor, the weight of carrying death that should have been your own. You've been dying slowly for 3 years, and I'm here to make that death beautiful. The silk wrapped tighter around Liam's body, not constraining but embracing, like being swaddled by impossibly gentle hands. He could feel it beginning to cover his face, preparing to complete his transformation from person to preserved trophy. Your parents didn't suffer, the weaver whispered as the silk covered his eyes, plunging him into warm darkness. The moment of impact, they were gone. But you've been suffering every day since, believing you deserve their fate. Well, now you'll have it, not death as ending, but death as beginning. Death as joining something greater than yourself. Through the silk, Liam could feel himself rising, being drawn into his prepared space among the others. The material that wrapped him pulsed with life, with purpose, and he realized with growing horror that it wasn't just preserving him, it was changing him, rewriting him from the inside out. In time, the weaver's voice grew distant as Liam was absorbed into the web. We'll understand what a gift this is. You'll feel what the others feel. No more loneliness, no more guilt, no more pain. Just eternal belonging, eternal purpose as part of something beautiful and patient and forever. The silk completed its work, covering him entirely, and Liam felt his individual consciousness beginning to dissolve. But instead of disappearing entirely, it was merging with something vast, a collective of all the weaver's previous acquisitions, all the lonely souls who had been gathered into this impossible web of preserved suffering. He could feel them all, the businessness still clutching at papers that would never matter, the old woman still reaching for phones that would never ring, the teenager still hoping for love that would never come. All of them suspended in silk, their pain perfectly preserved and eternally feeding the creature that had claimed them as family. You see, the weaver's voice came from everywhere and nowhere, speaking through the web itself now. You were never alone. You've always belonged to me, Liam. From the moment you first wished, the crash had taken you too. You were calling out to me across impossible distances. And in the silk-wrapped darkness of his new existence, feeling his consciousness merge with the collective suffering of the weaver's other treasures, Liam finally understood the terrible truth. He wasn't the creature's victim. He was its beloved. The guilt and loneliness that had consumed him for 3 years hadn't been symptoms of trauma. They had been a mating call, a beacon drawing this ancient thing to him across whatever void it inhabited between Huns. Sleep now, the weaver whispered as Liam's individual identity dissolved completely into the web. Rest in the knowledge that you'll never have to face another day alone, never have to carry the weight of undeserved guilt. In his silk cocoon among the dozens of others, Lem's body settled into perfect stillness. His heart slowed, then stopped, but consciousness remained, preserved and patient and utterly belonging to the thing that had claimed him. Outside the web, the weaver's true form began to shift and change, preparing for the next hunt. There were so many lonely souls in the world, so many people drowning in varieties of despair that it had yet to taste. But that was for later. For now, it had what it had been seeking for centuries, a perfect specimen of survivor's guilt, preserved forever in silk and sorrow. Welcome home, it whispered to its newest treasure. And in the collective consciousness of the web, Lem Thorne smiled for the first time in 3 years, finally at peace in the embrace of something that would never let him go. The apartment fell silent except for the gentle sound of the weaver beginning to weave again, creating new spaces, new patterns, preparing for the next lonely soul that would answer its call. The web was patient. The web was forever. And now, Liam was part of it,